Okay, good morning grade 10s and welcome to another video of functions and graphs. And a question that you so often get is a parabola and a straight line in one Cartesian plane, and then they ask you questions accordingly. So let's quickly have a look. It says, so we've got the parabola. Hopefully you know that that is the parabola. They've given me the equation for the parabola, and then I've got g of x over there, and as well they've given me the straight line over there. They say to you a and b are the x-intercepts of f. What do we know about x-intercepts? Remember, at that point y will be 0, and at that point y would be 0. C and D are the y-intercepts of f and g respectively. So C and D are the y-intercept. So what do we know about the y-intercept? It's where the x is 0. So for the parabola, we know that that C over there will be your backside, your y-intercept. So that coordinate there will be 0, negative 12. And what would D be over there? 0, 6. Okay, so very important, those backsides, or the turning point, or the y-intercept, or for the f of x, the minimum point will be that negative 12, and for the straight line will be the y-intercept, which is 6. Okay, K is a point on G such that BK is parallel to the y-axis. So what that means is that B and K share the same x value over there. Okay, and then F and G intersects at A and E. So that's the point of intersection. And how do we find the point of intersection? Is when we equal the two graphs to each other. Okay, let's look at A. Calculate the coordinates of A, B, and D. So A over there, we saw is the x-intercept, and B as well, the x-intercept. So how do we find the x-intercept? By making the y 0. And on which graph? The parabola. Do the answers on the following slideshows. Okay, so we said that is of the f of x graph. Then that is that equation. All right, and D is the y-intercept of the straight line, which is the backside, which we know would be 6. Okay, then they say to you, determine the length of CD. So C we know is negative 12, and D we know is 6. So how much stairs do we have to climb to get from C to D? How many units do I have to climb? Then they ask you the point of intersection. The E over there is the point of intersection, so that's where the two graphs are equal to each other. So you equal them, you're going to find the x value, then you plug it in again into one of your equations to find the corresponding y value for E. Then they say for which values of x is f of x increasing. So remember, we always read a graph from left to right. Okay, so as you write, from left to right. Okay, so can you see this is going down, 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 then it stops, and then it's going up, 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 up. So where is it increasing? There from from C's x value, which is 0, all the way, this one will continue all the way off my page up to infinity. Okay, then they say for which values of x is f of x bigger than g of x. So I'll explain that very nicely, but we can see that it's those two parts. For which values of x is f of x bigger than g of x. So f of x is bigger there and bigger there. We'll look at each question separately. Smaller than means that the y values will give you a negative answer. Okay, so that multiplication smaller than 0 means where the y values will give you a negative answer, and then calculate the length of BK, which is over there. All right, so let's quickly have a look at each question. Sorry, I'm going to explain that one rather on the next page or on the next slideshow. Okay, all right, so now they say to you, calculate the coordinates of A, B, and D. So for A and B, for the x-intercept, we're going to make y 0. So 0 is equal to 3x squared. So you get either your answer is a positive 2 or a negative 2. So when I go and insert that, I can see that the A value is on the positive side and the B value is on the negative side of x. So the coordinates for A will be 2, 0, because remember they ask you calculate the coordinates of A, B, and D. You don't want to come that far and then not write it as a coordinate. And then the coordinate for B is negative 2, 0. And then for D, D is the y-intercept of the graph g of x, which is over there, of the straight line. So if we had to remember what the straight line was, g of x is negative 3x plus 6. So we know that that's the back side. So it's 0, 6 like that. Okay, so very important with this question, please write it as a coordinate. Then they say to determine the length of CD. So C and D, D we've got is 0, 6. And we've had those, but you're not going to use now. And then we also have the f of x, that turning point, the minimum value, the y-intercept is negative 12. Okay, so if we have to work out OD, we know that OD will be 6 units. And OC is 12 units, even though it's going into the negative. Remember, how many stairs do we have to climb to get from C to D? So altogether, we'll have to climb 18 units. Okay. Number C, calculate the coordinates of E. So E is the intercept of the two graphs, where the two graphs are equal to each other. So I'm going to equal them to each other. Then you will always have where you have to find two values for x, or you'll find two values for x because they intercept at two parts. Okay, so there we've got that. Then I'm going to factorize properly, please. Remember your factorization. So x is negative 3 or x is 2. So now can you see that this E's value will definitely lie on the negative side of x. So x must be the negative 3. So we're going to know we already found A. So we know that that is 2, 0. So now we're going to use x is negative 3, and I'm going to plug it into some of the straight line because then there's no square in that. So we're going to look at that g of x. I'm going to plug it in there and find then that y is 15. Okay, so your point of interception is E, which is negative 3, 15. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you had to plug in the x value as 2, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 6, which will give you that A value 2, 0. But we already knew that, hey? Now they say to you, for which values of x is f of x increasing? So remember, from left to right. So increasing is going down, 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 stop. And then it's going up, 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 up. So it's increasing from, can you see here, from C all the way to infinity. So now what is the x value? Remember, for which values of x is f of x increasing? So at that point, the x value is 0 all the way to infinity. So you can write x is an element of 0 all the way to infinity, but it has to be with round brackets. Okay, it mustn't be included because at that point it stops and then it starts increasing. Okay, so from 0 onwards and not including 0. Another way of writing it is x is bigger than 0. Okay, but please, it mustn't include because at that point it stops. And then straight after the 0, just like millimeters after that, it starts increasing. So x is bigger than 0. And sorry, not x is an element of all real numbers. That's wrong. I had this on the previous slideshow. So remember, the other way of writing it is x is an element of round bracket 0 all the way to infinity, and we never ever include infinity. Okay, for which values of x is f of x bigger than g of x? So now let's quickly have a look. Here's my f of x graph. Where is he lying on top of the g of x graph? Can you see that it's this part over here as well as this part over here? So where is the y values for the f of x graph bigger than the y values? Remember, g of x means y. Sorry, where is it bigger than the y values for g of x? Okay, so can you see? I just want to see that I colored it in right. Yes, there we go. So it's those two parts. And how would we write that? So it's from that point E, and luckily we've worked out that x value over there already. So it's from -3 all the way from infinity. So remember, we always write minimum to maximum. So it's -infinity all the way to -3. Or you can write x is smaller than -3. And then as well as that point A to 0. So at that point, x value is 2, which we've had, sorry, and it goes bigger than 2. Okay, did I not write that? I don't think so. Let me just see. Or then x is bigger than 2. Oh, I did write it. There we go. Okay, so it's this part as well as that part. For which values of x is f of x times g of x smaller than 0? Now, people, these aren't very hard questions. It's where the two y values are multiplied, because that dot is the same as divide. So if I had to say f of x divided by g of x, it would have been the same. Okay, where are those two graphs multiplied together, giving you a number smaller than 0? And a number smaller than 0 is a negative number. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all the positive y values. Can you see? That's everything above the x-axis, and then everything below the x-axis is the negative numbers. So if you look at these two graphs over here, they share a positive y value, and a positive times a positive, which is already there, sorry, gives you a positive. Then it crosses over here at -2, and the one becomes a negative while the other one is a positive. And then again they cross over, and the one is a positive and the one is a negative. So f of x times g of x smaller than 0 means where are the two y values a negative, which means one is on top of the x-axis and one is below the x-axis. So over here, can you see they're both on top? Over here, they're both on top. And then here, this b, that f of x graph, goes to the dark side. It goes underneath. And this one is still positive, still nice. And then they cross, and then the one is nice and the other one's in the dark side still. Okay, so can you see that it is from -2 all the way to infinity? Okay, or x is bigger than -2. But we have to include there that x is not 2. So remember that point at A is 2. So where's the 2y value smaller than 0? At that point, they will not be smaller. They will actually be equal. So we have to exclude that point. So we're going to say comma, but x can't be 2. Okay. And I just want to make sure, there, we've got one more question. Calculate the length of BK. So over here, BK, remember B and K share exactly the same the x value there as -2. So we're going to take, K is lying on the straight line. So we're going to take the straight line, we're going to replace the -2 into the x value, and we're going to get that y is 12. Because why do we want the y value? Because we want to know the distance going from B to K, which is the climb upon the y-axis. Does it make sense? E was 15, that K was 12. Yes, it does. So always just look at your picture and say, does it make sense? Where in relation to what they are lying around the other points that we have, does it make sense? So E here was 15 and K was 12. All right, so it's 12 units. And then another question that I could have asked, we know that BA is 4 and BK is 12 now. And then I could have asked you to work out AK. So you can use your distance formula because we know K, we know A. And let's say you don't have your distance formula. Another thing that we could have used is the beautiful Pythagoras, where we say 4 squared plus 12 squared will give you AK squared. All right, I hope it helped to see it visually and that you understand it a little better, that you're not scared of these questions. They're actually quite nice to answer. And if you hit one of these in paper 1, that you are confident to do them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.